Welcome to the Real Turf Techs podcast for the technician that wants to get real. Follow along as we talk to industry professionals and address hot topics that we all face. Along the way, we'll learn tips and tricks. I'm your host, Trent Manning. Let's have some fun. This episode of Real Turf Techs on Golf Course Industries Superintendent Radio Network is presented by Foley Company, a strong supporter of equipment technicians and golf course maintenance departments everywhere. Foley Company offers a proven solution for above and below the turf for turf professionals everywhere. To learn more about Foley Company's line of reel grinders, bed knife grinders, and the Air 2 G2 family of products, or to find a distributor, visit www.foleyco.com. Foley, ready for play. Welcome to the Real Turf Techs podcast, episode 113. Today we're talking to Tyler Barrett, Southeast Regional Sales Manager for Foley Company, based out of South Florida. Tyler was former equipment manager at Duran, Floridian National, and Country Club of Orlando. Let's talk to Tyler. Welcome, Tyler, to the Real Turf Techs podcast. Thanks for coming
Trent,
on.
how's it going? You must be scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Man, it is getting rough. It's getting pretty bad, drumming people up. But and I don't remember who it was, but somebody called me out and they said, "You've had on every grinder manufacturer except Foley, and you're sponsored by Foley." And I said, "Well, let's fix that." I happen to know a guy, and we'll tell more about that story the first time I actually met you at J.R. Wilson's place up in Noyak on Long Island. And yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. But no, thanks for having me on, Trent. I mean, it's never in a million years that I think I'd be sitting here interviewing for a podcast, but here it is. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, never in a million years did I think I would be doing a podcast. Like, what is this redneck from North Georgia doing a podcast? And it's funny, I get all kind of people I don't know or whatever, and they're like, "You do a podcast?" They just think it's like the strangest thing. I'm like, anybody, there's an app for that, and everybody has a podcast. So that's what we're doing here.
Awesome.
Tell us your story on how you got into the turf industry.
Yeah, so I was thinking about it this morning, and I can't remember a time in my life when I wasn't on a golf course in one form or fashion. As young as I can remember, my dad played college golf, and I was always just kind of dragging in behind him. He was playing golf and I was driving the golf cart at 4, 5, 6 years old, and just always been on a golf course. Started playing golf as soon as I could. Got to that high school age where you start thinking about what your first job's going to be and which burger you're going to flip at the fast food joint. And that just didn't do it for me. And behind the golf course, I saw these guys driving golf carts around all day. I just thought to myself, how could it get any better than that? And as soon as I turned 16, I got in the car and went to the local golf course and applied for a job at the bag drop.
Okay.
And started lugging bags and cleaning clubs and washing carts, on the weekends. I mean, it was still child labor law and all that kind of stuff. And I just loved it. I mean, it was just such a fun job. And I think back to it, now and how formative that was for me to, for that to be, my first job. And that position, I was surrounded by guys that were all retired military, or retired successful, business people. And they were, they're just working for free golf, but they were at 16 years old on your first job, surrounded by these people that are all successful. And I've never really thought about it, but I just learned so much about what it is to, be a person, what work ethic means and how to make a difference, and even if it's a small difference, just those guys, every one of them along the way have been a huge influence on my life. And, worked through high school, kind of, they say if you want to stop playing golf, you get in the business. And that was the truth. As soon as I started working on a golf course, the game kind of went out the window.
Yeah. Well, hold on just right quick. While you were on that, it just had me thinking, and I'm pretty sure I've said it before, but I just want to say it again, that
we don't realize how many young people we affect
Oh
because we
yeah.
get so many young people, high school, college coming in, and you're really affecting those people,
Oh yeah.
good or bad.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, it is a good thing to, you know, to mentor them and
Yep.
show them right from wrong. And I mean, I know I got yelled at a lot, but I'm not saying that, you should be yelling at them, but, at least show them the ropes. And
Oh yeah.
like you said, it's a lot of them, it's their first job they've ever had
Yep.
in their
Yep.
life, and they don't know any better,
Yep. No,
So
I
anyway,
totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah. Worked through high school. I worked as much as I could. I just became a workaholic. Graduated high school and then college came knocking. My grandfather was a huge influence on my life. He was a retired Air Force pilot. He flew helicopters and planes in the Air Force. And he was another person in my life that was just a huge influence. And so, from a really young age, it was golf and it was aviation. And here in Florida, there's two colleges that do, the pilot kind of training and curriculum. And one of them was here in town, and I graduated high school and started at Florida Tech. And it was an aviation management business degree. And there was flight training coupled with that. So, I did 4 years of that, all the while still working at the golf course. I never gave up the golf course. By that time, I had moved over to the grounds maintenance team. That summer between high school and college, I worked for the grounds crew, and I found myself elbow deep in a spreader at Morganite on the first day.
nice.
Airfine
like it.
superintendent. Oh yeah, superintendent told me I had to get all the lumps out of the spreader. And so I was, and he let me go at it for quite a while before I finally asked, why it smells so bad. And he told me it was processed
Yeah.
sludge. And I thought, oh, that's funny. And he was dead serious. And every time I see a bag of it now at Home Depot, it's like, oh yeah. But I fell for that once, won't fall for it again. And then, so, through college, I was cutting cups every day, 7 days a week. I'd go in at 5, cut cups, leave at 7:30 or 8 and go straight to campus and do the college stuff. And then, the economy was kind of in a tailspin, for lack of a better word. And I had actually started working in the shop for the head mechanic at the time. And he retired. And, I was kind of at that, that fork in the road. Do I pursue aviation or do I, stay close to home and do the golf stuff? And so I stayed close to home and I took over his roles there as a, equipment tech at a local club. And I just fell in love with it. I mean, it's just so much fun. It was, every day was a little different, problem solving, troubleshooting, all that kind of good stuff that comes with the ins and the ins and the outs. And, never really looked back. I was there for quite a while. I was there for 7 years or 8 years. And then an opportunity opened up down Southeast Florida. I got to work at a really high end exclusive club. And that was just that I learned more in 3 years there than I did 7 years, at a smaller club. It was drinking water out of a fire hose. It was just a blast. I mean, it was just so much fun. And then I was, I was commuting 2 hours a day for that job, and it was 7 days a week, and I burned out. And, we tried to move down there closer to, and it just didn't work out. And so the drive killed me, and I burned out. I was so tired. I couldn't take it. Ended up working for Jacobsen, actually, in the factory direct branch. I was a road tech with Jake for a couple of years.
That's so funny. It's hilarious because out of everybody that I've interviewed, there is so many that's worked for a Jake dealer at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just funny. It's like, yeah,
Right.
I work, and they all say it the same way. Like, oh yeah, I worked at a Jake dealer too.
Yeah.
For a little time.
And honest to God, I loved it. I mean, the people I worked with were awesome. The factory direct, model worked really well. There were hiccups along the way, but I look back at those years, and I mean, I loved every minute of it. It was everything that I liked about working in a shop, but multiplied. It was just the troubleshooting was a little more in depth. You know, you got to see different faces every day. It was just really easy to stay active and learning.
Yeah.
And they were a great company to work for. I mean, I hope that they, can kind of get their pieces back together and get
Well,
back
I
up and
really
going.
think they have a huge, or had a huge opportunity with
Right.
COVID,
Oh yeah.
and all the other manufacturers really struggling to get the equipment out. They had
Oh
a
yeah.
huge opportunity, and hopefully they
Yeah.
can capitalize on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and sorry, I wasn't trying to talk bad about Jake.
No, I mean, I get it. Right. I mean, we all hear it every day.
Yeah, we all hear it a lot, but I mean, they have really good potential. It's
Oh yeah.
just, I think it's something, and I mean, everybody that I've ever met and talked to that work for them are great people. I
Oh yeah.
mean, they have really good
Absolutely.
people working there.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully competition's good for everybody. So
Well, it is exactly
I love
because
a lot of their products. I really, really liked. I mean, the cutting units were
yeah,
great. The 322 and the Eclipse and a lot of that technology, we see it now in different colors, but
mm-hmm,
they did it. They did it really well, or do it
right,
really well, I should say.
yeah.
But yeah,
Sorry, I
so
didn't mean to
yeah,
sidetrack you there.
no, all good. I kind of saw the writing on the wall when I was with Jake, and that opportunity was Foley opened up. I had known Foley, at every course I had been at. I had gotten to know, most everybody at Foley that, an end user would come in contact with Ron and
Mm-hmm.
Vince and Greg, all the Gregs. And, I was always impressed with the company, always impressed with the product. And I had an opportunity to come on board with them. And it's been, the greatest thing that's ever happened. I mean, it's just, the company's just awesome. And the opportunity that they've given me, it's just been a blast. I mean, some days it's just like, man, it's hard to believe that I get paid to do this. It's
You're right.
just help so many people and get to develop so many relationships and get to meet so many people across, an entire region.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a blast. I mean, I not a regret in the world.
Yeah, how long have you been with him?
6 years.
Okay,
That's my 6th year. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and I guess how did the opportunity come about? Because
So
weren't you kind of the first technical
yeah, so
person they hired?
in this part of Florida, the distribution was the Jacobsen branch for the,
Mm-hmm.
let's say 75% of the Florida market. And, just like me looking at the writing on the wall, I think Foley saw the writing on the wall as well. And they were looking at, what do they do to make sure that the Foley customer in the state of Florida is taken care of? And what they decided, and looking back now, hindsight, was that a factory direct model would be best, right? And, looking at how Jacobsen was doing the factory direct model, maybe it wasn't, there wasn't a lot of proof in the pudding at that point, but, grinders being such a specialized product in an industry, right? I mean, every golf course has got 2 grinders, maybe 4 at really large properties. It allows you to really pinpoint the customer service, right? Because it doesn't matter what color the grinder is, right? I mean, we're all making dull stuff sharp, right? And really what it's all about is just being able to support the product, being able to support the customer, and being able to really just be there when needed. And so the factory direct model here in Florida, coming out of the Jake direct branch, I think it was Greg Turner called and Ron. I'd met Ron in Orlando, and we just kind of talked about it, doing a factory direct, setup where they gave me a truck and a trailer, a set of grinders, and just, here are the keys and have at it. And drove that trailer from one end of the state to the other, showing off the products and doing things like parts and service and technical questions and training and warranty repairs and refurbs. I mean, you name it, we do it. And it's just a really simple process for the customer. It's called Tyler. You need a stone, you need a grinder, you need whatever the case may be. It's kind of a one-stop shop, and it's worked really well. And it's been a blast. I mean, it's been really fun.
No, that's awesome. I know the dealers help a lot on taking off some of the financial burdens and that kind of thing, crediting and all those things. So, and then a level of support. And then I know when I worked for Jerry Pate, I don't remember the exact details, but I know Foley required Jerry Pate to send 2 technicians ever so often to their service school in Wisconsin. And luckily I was fortunate enough to do that, and I loved it. I mean, it was so much fun going up there, and it wasn't just, okay, here's our product. It was, let's troubleshoot this, this goes out or that goes out, and let's look at the electrical diagrams. And I mean, it was really hands-on, fun troubleshooting.
Yeah. Now that service schools are great. I think we just did our first service school since COVID last year. And so we had a really good group of guys go up to the factory, and we're looking at that's back in place now. So,
oh, sweet.
Yeah. And so I've actually had the opportunity. I went to the service school as a distributor tech, but also, once I got hired for Foley, I was up there for the service school. So it's cool to see kind of both sides of it, and the service schools are huge.
Very cool.
Yeah, they're great.
Well, when you were turning wrenches on a golf course, what was your least favorite part of the job?
It's hard to pinpoint a least favorite part of the job. I really didn't have any part of that job that I dreaded. Some jobs were a little more pleasant than others, right? I mean, changing belts on a progressive was never my favorite thing to do. But, in this job, travel and the traffic is the least favorite part, the traffic.
Yeah.
A lot of windshield time in Florida. And then if I'm not, if I'm going to, Jared Pate or Smith Turf Airlines and traveling, it's, I was watching just people watching last week, and I'm convinced that when people go to the airport, right, they take their luggage out of the trunk, put the brain in the trunk, and just walk into the terminal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just never know what you're going to see in an airport. It's wild.
That is, I agree with that one for sure. What's your favorite tool?
A little 1/4-inch hex bit or hex driver. You get a little ratchet, fits in the palm of your hand, and I'm convinced I can do just about anything with a Foley grinder. I mean, short from bending the metal and welding it together. A lot of the hardware is really common, 5/32 Allen heads, just a little 1/4-inch hex bit ratchets. I got them scattered all over the place. I got one in the truck and one in the tool bag, and try to keep one in the pocket, No.
Oh yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, hard to beat. Do you use any electric stuff? Like the little
I don't
1/4-inch electric?
have the 1/4-inch electric. I mean, that thing is what electricity and the lithium-ion battery stuff, what it's done for hand tools is crazy. I don't ever, I shouldn't say ever, but never see guys dragging their hoses around shops anymore. I mean, it's
no.
What those tools have done. And even the small compact, like you said, the 1/4-inch drive or 3/8 drive, ratchets. I mean, they're awesome.
Yeah, I love the little 1/4-inch, the hex drive where it has a little clutch on it.
Yeah.
For especially working on 2-stroke stuff and, backpack blowers, taking the shrouds on and off, and T27 Torx bit on there. And, you're not running it in there with a regular drill and stripping all the plastic stuff out. Super handy. Well, what do you do to relax or find your balance?
At the risk of sounding like a softie, I've started baking bread. A friend of mine at GIS in Orlando started just out of the blue talking about sourdough. And he's got me hooked on sourdough. It's the craziest. I mean, right up there with doing podcasts. I never thought I'd be baking bread and enjoying it as much as I do. I mean, it's got this little sourdough starter that I feed, once a day, and make sourdough with it. And that led to pizza. And so now, cooking and baking and and doing all that stuff with family. And then I'm a huge college football nut. I mean,
Okay.
it's genetic, huge Michigan Wolverine fan. So it's been a
Oh,
good
well, you've
couple
been
of
really
weeks.
excited then.
Been basking
Yeah.
in reflective glory. Finally, it's been a lot of fun to watch this year.
Yeah. So how did you pick Michigan in South Florida?
So my mother's side of the family is all from Michigan,
Okay.
and
Yep.
and a huge Michigan fan. So it's just always around, and
Right.
it's just
Yeah,
always
everybody
part of
gives
my
me
life.
a hard time because I pull for Alabama and I've lived in
Right,
Georgia my whole life, but my dad's from North Alabama and that's all I
right,
knew growing up was Alabama football and Georgia sucks.
right,
You know,
right,
yeah, he pulled for two teams
right,
actually, Alabama and whoever was playing Georgia.
right.
I don't, it was just one of those
Right.
things. So that's what I learned
Yeah.
to do too.
Being a Michigan fan, you root for every team that plays Ohio State, no matter what.
Yeah, I'm
So,
sure. I'm sure. Well, what's been one of your biggest challenges to date in
you
just
know
in
what?
life and in work, whatever?
Yeah, that's a tough one too. I would say just balancing all the demands that are at you every day, between work and family, making sure that, that your time's well spent. The busier, we all get, it's really important to make sure that, what really matters is taken care of too. So it's,
Mm-hmm.
not sure if it's a challenge, but it's something that, as my responsibilities have grown, it's something that I, make sure that I pay close attention to.
I think it's definitely a struggle.
Right.
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 Especially I do think, it's changing over time at the golf course, but back in the 90s, it was go, go, go and,
Okay.
work first, family last. And that's probably not just the golf industry. I just think that was kind of the
Right.
rhythm we're in. And now it's definitely, you hear a lot more about work life balance. And I remember, a guy asked me and John Patterson, how do y'all deal with work life balance? And John Patterson's like, well, when I was coming up, it was work balance. That's all.
Right.
That's all you're trying to do was balance
Oh,
work,
yeah.
and life didn't matter. But it's great for the industry, and I mean the country. Whoever is worrying more about being at home with family because it is so important.
Go ahead.
And the guy that he's going to drop this week, I believe, so you'll hear it again, or you just heard it a month ago when you hear this one, talking about how much time you have with your kids because, when they're little and they're around a lot, that's a very short window.
Right.
You might say, well, they're going to be at home for 18 years, but the amount of time you actually get to spend with them just gets less and less every single year.
Right. Right.
As they get older, when they get teenagers and they're busy with friends and sports and all those things, you're not seeing them as much. And then, once they fly the coop, who knows when you're going to see them.
Right. Right.
So yeah, very, very important. You got any strange stories that you saw out there at an airport or on a road or at a golf course?
Right. I don't know if strange is the right word, but when I was working in Southeast Florida, we got to have, it was actually Obama at the time as sitting president. He came out to the golf course for a weekend and seeing the operation that, follows him around, whoever
wow.
it is. I mean,
Yeah.
that was wild. I mean, it was like being in the middle of a war zone, you know what I mean? Well, with playing golf.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
I
So
mean,
a
it
bunch
was,
of guys with M4s running around.
well, not really. I mean, they were
Okay.
around, but you couldn't see them. They could see you, but you couldn't see
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just the, what's involved and seeing, what follows that person around it everywhere that they go. It's baffling, from communications to, the protective side of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool to see.
That is a very cool experience. Do you have a mentor in the industry?
I can't. I feel like if I narrowed it down to one, I'd be leaving out so many. It's one of those things about this industry, right? I've always said, can't remember who told me, but it's not an equipment industry; it's a people industry. And
That's a good one.
everybody I've come in contact has been a mentor in some form or fashion. It's whether it's the first mechanic that I worked under and cut my teeth, or whether it's a superintendent along the way, or a vendor rep, or there's too many people to name. This industry is just flooded with really, really good people. And I think all of us, benefit from, I think everybody in the book, you could say is mentored you in some form or fashion at some point. It's one of the really, really awesome things about this industry.
I agree 100%. I think that's a great answer. Everybody in the industry.
Yeah.
It is, because it's just, and that, I just sound like a broken record, I know, but I just love this industry so much. And that's why I want to do this podcast and get people's stories out there and
you're doing it a great,
people learn a little bit.
You're doing it a great service. So thank you
thank you for that. I do appreciate that for sure. What would be your dream job?
Man, I think I've got it. No, yeah.
You don't want to be flying a C-130 or F-14 or...
So I'm through and through an aviation nerd, right? Every time something flies overhead, I'm looking at it, you know what I mean? And if you were to look at my YouTube algorithm right now, it's all airplanes. And everybody thinks I'm crazy. I love flying, but I wouldn't want to do it for a living. You know what I mean? It's a lifestyle that, I don't know, it's just not for me. It's very corporate. It's very, you're not an employee, you're a number on a seniority list, and you can get axed in a heartbeat, and you can be living good one day and struggling the next. It's just, I love flying. Wouldn't want to do it for a living.
Gotcha. What technician would you like to work with for a day?
That's probably an easy one, but man, Chad Braun, every time I talk to him, whether it's for 30 seconds or 30 minutes, you learn something. The guy's just, you say equipment manager, I say Chad Braun. The guy's just,
right. Yeah.
The guy's, I'm not sure. He's the gold standard. And so to work alongside him and just see what he does, even on a slow day, I think would be awesome.
I think he's a Toro walking encyclopedia. I'm serious.
And
that's very unfair to say that about him, because he's so knowledgeable about everything. But in our WhatsApp group, if somebody has a Toro thing, he comes with a tech manual, a service bulletin, something,
right?
And how he finds his stuff so quick. So I even asked him one day in the group chat, like, how do you find these pictures, of these exact problems people are asking about so fast? And he says, well, I have them all in separate albums. And I said, you make me sick, to be that organized. Right. Don't get me wrong. I love Chad and I wish I was that organized, but I'm not. My brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
and I say, and I'll even start like, okay, I want to organize some of these pictures, and I'll get 10 pictures in, and then it's squirrel running off over here. But he would definitely be a good one.
Oh yeah, his attention to details just awesome.
Why don't he's only 45 minutes from y'all's factory?
Oh man,
yeah, you need to run over there and see him. He would love that. Yeah, for sure. Hook it up. Well, what do you know now you wish you'd known on day one?
That it all works out. The decision to leave aviation and pursue golf was not an easy one. It's not a glamorous, walking through the airport with your funny little hat and short sleeve shirt and tie on, and to leave that to work at a golf course. I think a lot of people thought I was crazy. A lot of people still probably do think I was crazy, but just knowing that, every little step along the way, it's all for the better. And, just keeping a positive attitude is what it's all about.
Yeah. No, that's great advice for sure.
Get ready for tips and tricks.
What kind of tips and tricks you want to share?
So, I'm talking about spin speeds a lot, and I think probably everybody is, but, the Edge series reels from Toro, which slowed spin speeds down considerably. A lot of the spin speeds on the Foleys are preset a little high, and like you're going to be between 200 and 240. I think Chad Brun would say 219 was the spin speed that he found.
Okay.
That worked for 11 bladed 5-inch reel. But just being aware of spin speeds and knowing that with edge series reels, we got to slow spin speeds down to compensate for the hardness of the reel, but also the low drag bearings and seals in the newer Toro reels. Being in different shops every day, you see so many different little
Can
tips
we
and tricks.
can we keep touching on that spin speed? I got some follow-up questions.
Yeah.
So how much does spin speed change if you got the same diameter reel, but we're talking about 11 blade, say you go to a 14. Do you need to slow it down a little bit more?
You actually speed it up a little bit, probably closer to 240.
Okay.
The 14 blade at 5-inch is probably the quickest that you'll be at, I would say.
Okay.
At the quickest speed.
So same thing. If you had an 8 blade, then you're going to be a little below 200. Maybe.
So you may be a little below 200. So the way the spin speed works in the Foley, right? There's no feedback back into the grinder that says, yep, you're at 200 or you're at 210. It's strictly a voltage out of the board, depending on where you've got the spin speed set on the screen or where you've got the spin speed pot on the control screen. So if you're wide open, right, you're going to send 90 volts of DC power to the spin motor. And that 90 volts of DC power is going to spin every reel a little different, right? So older Toros were a lot harder to spin, just, free spin. And so if you took, say, 75 volts of a DC power to an older Toro, it's going to spin a lot slower than a newer Toro does, just because that same amount of voltage is going to spin the reel, that much quicker. I've seen some of the 7-inch reels where, maybe you're down around 190, 195.
Okay.
I would say generally you're between 200 and, 210 to 240.
Yeah.
For reels. And it's just feel, right? Everybody, you can hear it, you can feel it, you can see it, you can see the barrel pull effect and all that kind of good stuff. But it's,
for what it's worth, I'm at 238 on a 14 blade 5-inch reel. Edge series reel. And for the listeners, we did not talk about this beforehand. This is just fact. And actually, I just came back from the Bahamas. They got a Foley 653. It's a 2019 model. It looks brand new. And I checked, it had 47 hours on it. And when I checked, and I know I put at least 15 hours on it. So these guys aren't doing a lot of grinding down there. And the electricity.
At least the machine looks like new, right?
Right. And their electricity down there is kind of suspect. Because to use the grinder, you have to turn everything else in the shop off. It's weird, because when the motor tries to kick on, it's enough of a voltage drop that it'll turn the whole machine off if there's one single thing on an outlet in their shop.
So the real,
not a good situation down there.
Right. The reel grinder ideally is on a 20 amp dedicated circuit. You're talking, so the machine tripping off, right? It's a low voltage relay. It's been on every Foley grinder we've ever made. But on the powers, and the crib end, you've got to be aware of whether it's 50 hertz or 60 hertz. I think you can have some weird things going on in the traverse. And I probably shouldn't talk about it because I'm not versed on it entirely, but
if the grinding motor would kick on, everything run good. And I was spinning 14 blade flex 2100 reels at 238, just like I do back here in the States. And they ground out perfect.
Awesome.
But since we've whipped that horse enough about the spin speed, you can continue with your tips and tricks.
Yeah. So, you see so many, I think maybe it was something that you talked about at one point, but I'm seeing it everywhere is using the piece of galvanized pipe with the little cap on the top of it, slide it over the lift yoke and lift reels into the grinder with that. And pipes, stick the pipe on the lift yoke and move it around the shop. It's always a little nauseating to hear a cutting unit be kicked across a concrete floor.
Yeah.
So it's just little things like that. But there's so many little doodads and gadgets that guys work up in fab. And, there's always some sort of modified 5/8 open end wrench somewhere, or T-handle
Mhm.
around the shop somewhere that
Yep.
guys will use. But yeah,
Good stuff. What else you want to talk about?
as long as this is there and after the next couple of weeks, Foley, and we've been working on some new stuff that's really exciting. We'll have a new product launching in the next couple of weeks that I think is really going to be something that can make a big difference in a lot of shops. You made me sign a disclosure. How to get you to sign a disclosure since it's the week before it's getting launched, but
Well, I signed a disclosure when I was at Foley, I believe.
Okay.
Maybe it's still valid. But
I'll
no,
have to check the date
I
then.
mean, seriously, yeah, this is not going
Yeah,
to drop before then.
Cool.
I would never do that to you or the Foley company.
Correct. So we're calling it the Quick Spin. It kind of sits flat on the floor, and you can push a reel up on it or drive a walking greens mower up on it and do a quick, spin grind only, right? So we're not gauging, we're not reliefing. We're just doing a quick in between kind of touch off spin grind. Talking about lifting reels and moving reels around the shop, all that's kind of alleviated because it's just flat right on the ground. I mean, it's really, really cool, really quick, really,
You gotta
versatile.
pull a bed knife?
You don't have to. No.
Okay.
No. And it's, how do I say this? European markets have the really large fixed head greens mowers, the Dennis and the Allet, 42 inches wide. Obviously getting those things in grinders is a bit of a physical challenge. And that's where this machine really comes in. I mean, you just drive it right up, right? The rear roller clamps down automatically. You do a quick touch left and right, and you're throwing sparks and you're getting it sharp in no time. So it's
very cool.
It's it's a really cool piece in the Foley line. It's kind of new for us, and working even further down the pipeline. There's a lot of exciting things coming out of Foley over the next 12 months. So.
Awesome! I can't wait. I always love new products and new ideas. And do you know if they've made any progress with bed knife grinder? Because I know they were talking about coming up with some things there, and maybe you can't share those yet.
The engineering team has been firing on all cylinders.
Awesome.
All good stuff.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. Are y'all still making the rotary blade grinder?
Yeah, 460 and 465. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yes, sir.
It's one of those. It's a huge investment, and unless you got a lot of rotary units, it's kind of hard to justify that for golf operation.
Yeah, it does a really good job. It's it's not for everybody, obviously, but you can fly through some rotary blades really, really quick and really, really consistent, which is what it's all about.
Right. I know Will, he's got one out, a Lotion Club, but it's Candyland out there. They got anything they want.
Right.
Anything you want. Well, do you want to do some rapid fire?
Sure.
Let's do it. What's your favorite movie?
Yeah, it's tough. Rapid fire. I'm going to ramble about this one. I guess if I had to nail it down, I'd say The Big Lebowski.
Oh, yeah. It's classic. The Dude.
But there's so many, man. It's hard to leave out all the other ones.
Throw another one out there.
Coming out of Christmas, you can't beat Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
You can't beat Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Another good one.
Yeah. The latest Top Gun was really good. Being an aviation nerd, it's hard. I'd probably get my wings taken away from me if I didn't mention that one.
Well, I was gonna question, since aviation, and you're not gonna say Top Gun Maverick.
And Maverick was good. I think that's probably the first one that was, arguably better than the first one. I just saw something there. They're going to make a third one. That makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, I'm nervous about that.
I think somebody maybe running to the bank on that one.
What would be your last meal?
I tell you, one thing that you've done, right, is proven that this industry is full of carnivores. I mean, I think everybody eats a steak and a potato. I got to be honest, I'm not crazy about steak. I enjoy a good steak, right? But I guess the last meal would be A nice beach bar somewhere on the water with a ice cold Corona and maybe some nachos or something like that.
Cool. Seafood? You into seafood?
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, you gotta do
Florida
seafood in
seafood,
Florida, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
A grouper sandwich would be up there with the Corona. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't do seafood in the Midwest, you know?
Well, maybe catfish, maybe.
Maybe. I wasn't too crazy about steak in the Bahamas. There's
Yeah,
not many cows
yeah.
down
Not
there.
a lot of cattle ranches down there in the
No.
islands.
That's a fact. What are you most proud of beside your family?
I would hope, hopefully a long time from now when they're throwing dirt on top of me that they can look back and say that I was reliable. If Tyler said he was going to do something, he did it. If you needed him, he was going to be there. And
Right on.
I'm proud of that. And I work hard for that every day. I'm also really proud of Foley. I mean, not to, put the brown nose on, but, what we've done here in the last couple of years with COVID and all the challenges that, it's been thrown at us. I mean, they've taken it at the factory, right? I mean, I'm just a schlep out in the field, the guys and gals in the factory that have just worked so hard, taken every challenge thrown at them with stride. We've kept, the pricing has been really consistent. The lead times have been really consistent. Everybody up there from top to bottom, what they've been able to do in the last couple of years is really awesome. And I'm proud to be, a small part of the team. I'm proud and grateful both.
No, that's awesome. And I don't know why I've never really even thought about this, but, and I work for a Toro distributor and I seen, and nothing, I think happens at a lot of distributors. There's some junk that comes out of the factory because, whoever on that assembly line that day and they missed this or they missed that, whatever. And I've seen it with Toro and Deere. And honestly, with the Foley, y'all do really good at the factory level, getting those machines put together and having them
Oh
right
yeah.
when they get there.
Oh yeah. That's what it's all
Yeah.
about. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I was actually just looking at it a couple of days ago. Last year, I think I had 2 warranty claims in my territory. And it
Wow.
was just, nothing. I mean, it was maybe a misaligned pulley on two different warranty tickets last year, which
Yeah.
is, it's not me, right? It's everybody at the factory that are,
Well, right. Yeah,
day in and
sure.
day in and day out, putting out quality products. So it's awesome.
And that probably, those warranty claims probably happened during shipping.
I
I
like that. That's a good one. I
Yeah.
would go back and change the description on that when this
Right.
truck line did it. Right.
I should have got a warranty claim on my 653 grinder because I unloaded it with forks that were way too short and
Uh-oh.
it tipped back and bent the back shroud. So I'm over there doing
Right.
body work on it right after I got
I met
off
one
the
of your
truck.
guys. I met one of your guys last week. He told me about a thermal event, maybe at one of your shops. So I'll be watching the warranty.
A
claims, he
thermal
said.
event.
He
Oh,
said
yeah.
something.
Okay, yeah, you talked to Joel.
So-
We did have, I like the way you put that, thermal event. Yes, we did have a building fire. And
There you go.
yeah, all our equipment burnt. And I guess when they put the fire out, that is very corrosive,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So the rails on the bed knife grinder oxidized.
Yeah.
Terrible oxidation. So part of the insurance claim is I said, I want new bearings and new rails. And they said, who's going to do the work? I said, I'll do the work. Don't worry about it. Can we get a special guy to come out here?
Right.
No. And I do want to, while we're on that, you brought this up. So changing the rails on that is not a lot of fun. The way that board, it slides out, but you can't get to the
right.
The screws on the bottom.
672, right? You've got to pull that electrical cabinet out. It's not, the next time you do it, it'll be a lot easier than the first time you did it. It's, but the 670 is a piece of cake. You can get underneath there and do that easy. The only hard part's just getting that cabinet out of or that drawer pulled out and accessing the last 3
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
pounds.
Yeah. And thanks for the moral support. Because the second time I do anything, it's going to be easier than the first time I did it.
Yeah. If it's not, then something's not right.
Right. Yeah. Can we, yeah, we got time. We got to tell the J.R. Wilson story. So
I told
the first
you
time,
statute of limitations on this.
well, yeah, we won't mention any names, but the first time I meet Tyler is at J.R. Wilson's shop at Noyak Golf Club on Long Island. And, you know, I'd followed you on Twitter, and we'd talked on the phone, I think, a time or two before then. But you come up to do a little talk, and I was doing a talk there. And what happened to your car at a restaurant?
Yeah.
Somebody just run into it?
Speaking of the least favorite part of the job, right, is the traveling. So that trip, I was supposed to leave the night before at, say, 6 o'clock. I didn't leave until 6 a.m. the next morning, right? So I'm leaving Orlando at 6 a.m. Supposed to be at JR's place at 8 a.m. So that's not going to work, right? But we just made the best of it. I got there around lunchtime. We did our thing. You and I went out to dinner, come out to the car, and the the left rear quarter panel is not only bashed in, but a big old black scuff down the side of it. And I'm just like, man, I can't, it stopped me dead in my tracks, right? So then I started thinking, well, was that there the whole time? That just happened? Or I guess it was, I didn't think nothing of it. The next morning we're back at JR's place, because I think we went around a couple different clubs, did a little tour. Yeah. And, JR looked at it and he's like, man, I can take care of that for you. If we just get that black mark off, you'll never see the dent, right? And so JR has never met a challenge he didn't take head on, and
right. And he's just a big teddy bear, and he just wants to help somebody so bad. Yes.
Nothing but absolute best intentions. And he went and got this huge buffer wheel. I mean, looking back at it now, I feel like that thing was 4 feet across, but
it was at least a 14-inch buffing wheel.
Right. He got the buffing and buffing and buffing. Then he put a little, polish on it, and the wheel went one way, and I saw the unpainted surface of the fender, right? And then it went the other way, and I think you said, like, oh, might be getting a little heavy there. And he pulled the buffer away, and the black mark was gone, right? But so was the clear coat, and so was the paint, and so was everything. Right. So now it just put this huge, label on it. Like, not only did I see it, but I tried to fix it. I think he might have went and got a paint pen, and
he did. He found him a white paint pen.
So that afternoon, right, I pointed west and went straight to JFK, dropped the car off, and I ran as fast as I could, never looked back, and never heard anything back.
Well, that's good. That's another part of traveling, like you say.
Oh, yeah.
Worst part of the job, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Tyler. It's been so much fun. I've really, really enjoyed it. And hopefully listeners will enjoy it too. But thank you so much for
thank you, Trent. Yeah, thank you.
We are recording early, so I look forward to seeing you in Phoenix.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be there.
Thank you so much for listening to the Real Turf Techs podcast. I hope you learned something today. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have any topics you would like to discuss, or you'd like to be a guest, find us on Twitter at Real Turf Techs. See you, bye.